Hey, welcome back to another episode of Marketing Adventure with Jackie. Today in episode 52, I am going to talk to you about the different forms of media. Now, last week we talked about advertising, the purpose of advertising, and the 4 different types of advertising. Now we're going to dive a little bit deeper. And in this episode, I'm going to tell you about the 9 types of media used in advertising. I'm going to cover 9. I'm pretty sure there's a lot more these days, but I'm specifically going to focus in on 2, and that's going to be broadcasting and outdoor signage. So let's go. You're listening to Marketing Adventure, the hub for business, fashion, marketing, and other CTE educators who integrate marketing into the learning experience. I'm your host, Jackie Walker. Each week, I'll cover marketing education concepts, strategies, tips, trends, frameworks, and other information to equip you to connect your classroom to digital natives while cultivating an engaged learning environment. So come on into the room where your favorite beverage, snacks, and even your cell phone are all welcome. As I stated, I'm going to cover 9 types of media used in advertising. So just to outline those for you really quickly before I get into the very first 2, the 9 different ones we're going to cover over the next 4 episodes are broadcasting, outdoor signage, print media, email marketing, internet marketing, product placement, merchandise packaging, mobile advertising, and social media advertisement. So let's get into the first one. Broadcasting. Now, broadcasting, as we talk about it, is going to cover radio and television. Now, radio really has a broad reach, and at the time of this episode, we're talking, and probably even more, because this research was done a little bit of a while ago, but radio reaches over 243 million people. It mainly appeals to those of us who are driving in our cars or busy around the house or doing something where we like to have that background noise just to fill our ears. I know for me, it's when I'm outside doing yard work. I mean, mowing the lawn, working in the garden. I can put some tunes on and I can listen to my favorite stations. And then comes these ads that pop in there telling me about various things, usually that are in my local area. So some local advertising thrown into the mix. And if you go back and think about what I talked about before with the types of advertising, you have your national, regional, and local, and that's where that local advertising comes in, and maybe a little cooperative advertising with some major company advertising in a smaller market. Okay, so that's your radio. Now, some key characteristics of radio is that they're prime ads and they're really short. So there's not a whole bunch of preparation that needs to be done for them, and not a whole bunch of lead time that's needed. It does not give you any visual impact, but the message is sent and it has a short life because it is radio. And the thing about it is that because it does have a short life, you may hear it more frequently. With radio, you tend to hear things like every 30 minutes or so. I don't know if you listen to some of these streaming stations, but you'll hear like the same thing being advertised over and over and over again. And that's because it's such a short, segment that is put out there on the radio, because you really can't keep anybody's attention that long using radio. And they rely on repetition, they rely on frequency, and they just rely on that message being left in your mind subliminally, and for you to think about it, to recall that because you've heard it so many times while you're listening to the radio. It's been said that some reasons that a company should advertise on the radio is because you can zero in on a very specific market. Also, there's a sense of immediacy because people are listening to the radio. That's a very personal time because they're listening to their favorite station, and you can kind of like invade their thoughts and their space by popping an ad in there. It also is affordable now because it's such a small set of time and it doesn't really require much lead time to develop it. It tends to be more less expensive than some of your other ways of advertising. It improves influence in that particular market. One of the advantages of advertising on radio, if you are getting the host to read your message, it's as if you're getting an endorsement from the host. And it could very well could be, especially if they used your product or service, as opposed to it already being a pre-recorded script that is done by, an actor or someone who's doing a voiceover or anything like that. A lot of times when you can get a host to read your ad, it gives that extra endorsement from the host and their fans. The other part of broadcasting is television. Now, we know people don't really tune into television as much as they used to. I know I really don't tune into the local channels that much. I'm usually watching an app for something that I want to see. But it still has a broad reach. It's one of the easiest routes to mass communication to an audience. Now, some benefits to television is that it actually does allow you to visually show your products, which can capture the attention of your audience. So that is a benefit because they get to see color, motion, all the things about the product. Now, you will find that most of the companies that are doing advertising on TV are nationally recognized manufacturers and company, and they're just continuing to build on that brand loyalty. Now, if this is for a company advertising in a regional area, this helps to zoom in on the target market for that company and gives them the broadest reach for that market by advertising on TV. Now, as for the local companies that are trying to advertise to their local market, they can tap into the streaming services like your cable services and things of that nature, where they can buy ads that is specific for their particular local market. And that helps them to get give some visual context to their product. For television, there are some traditional characteristics such as prime time. Prime time is between the hours of 8 p.m. and 11 p.m. And there tends to be more credibility and trustworthiness with TV because it is a little bit expensive to advertise on TV. And if someone is putting time and effort into placing an ad on TV, then that builds their credibility with the audience that is watching the commercial. Now, the ads are shorter. Ads tend to last, from 30 seconds to maybe a minute or 90 seconds or so. They don't last very long. It used to be in the past that ads last a little bit longer, but now the window of time for capturing someone's attention is very short. And I'll tell you one thing about ads that come on TV. I don't know if you've noticed this or not, but when the ad comes on, the TV goes up in volume. And the reason for that is because what happens when a show pauses for a commercial? We get up, we run to the restroom, we run and get something to eat, we go and do something really quick, and then come back so that we can watch our show. So they know that. So what they do is they program it so that the volume goes up during a commercial and then it comes back down to where it was prior to the commercial. Now, despite the decreased use of TV, there are some trends that are positive that are happening in broadcasting for television. One, TV has moved from its regular traditional linear TV to CTV, which is connected TV for apps, things like Roku, Apple TV, Prime, Hulu, all of those different services. And so that migration has made it better for the user. Another trend is that the United States TV spending is expected to increase by 4%. So that means more people are buying TVs or more TVs are being sold. And you know what? That may be because every room in a house has a TV. My mother lives by herself, has four TVs. She's in her 70s. Why does she need four TVs? Well, she has one in her room, she has one in the living room, she has one in her workout room, and she has one in her office. So we tend to have TVs in every room. So that does create an increase in spending on TVs. I remember when I was raising my kids, we had one television in our house. We all gathered around that one television. Now there is a TV in every room. So expect the spending to continue to go up because of the individual desire for people to have their own television set. Now, another trend is that companies are able to really target their consumers better because of the data that's being collected by CTV. So that helps with um, getting a precise measure of who is watching what during what time, so you'll know what types of ads to put out. And then the last trend is the premium experience of watching TV because the screens have gotten so much bigger, so much clearer, so much quality in these screens that the experience is really great. So that is a plus for broadcasting and television. All right, so now we're going to get into talking a little bit about outdoor advertising. We've talked about radio and TV, the broadcasting thing. So let's talk about outdoors. Outdoor advertising reaches the consumer outside of their home, outside of their business, their office, or outside of devices. Your outside advertising tends to be very eye catching. It's generally something that is graphic on a board or a sign or something that you can visually see, that may be on a bus. It could be like a billboard along the highway. So those are designed to catch people when they are out and about moving around, and so that it can visually capture their attention. The cost for the viewing is minimal. It's generally placed in high traffic areas so that it can be visibly seen by a high number of people. Um, it's generally targeted to a geographic location. So whatever you see um, advertised outside, you can bet your bottom dollar it's going to be a company or something that is in the vicinity, in the metroplex. It's not going to be like national brand advertising. It's most likely going to be your local and maybe even your regional type of advertising. Now, the thing about this is that you can experience some wasted audience coverage because if you put something on a bus and you're just anticipating that, the right person is going to see it, likely a whole bunch of people who are not your target audience are going to see it, and a smaller percentage of your target market is going to see that advertising outside. A company is taking their chances that they have positioned themselves in an area where a larger number of their target market is. But because people are traveling, going to and fro, you don't know where they're coming from, you don't know where they're going to. So they just happen to be in that vicinity where that sign is, but it doesn't make it that they are necessarily the target market. Now, because this type of advertising does not necessarily get you into your target market, it is best used for institutional advertising, where you're just really trying to get the name, the brand, the image of the company out there, and you want to get people connected to the company, not a specific product. So that is the gist of outdoor advertising. It can be a little bit tricky and you're kind of gambling when you place your advertising outside, and you really just are trying to build up your image in the mind of the people who see the advertising. we've reached the end of the episode, and just to wrap it up, let me just go back over the different forms of media that we'll talk about over the next 4 episodes, or the next 3 after this one. It's broadcasting, outdoor signage, print media, email marketing, internet marketing, product placement, merchandise packaging, mobile advertising, and social media advertising. Today, we talked about broadcasting for radio and broadcasting for television and outdoor signage. I look forward to seeing you here next week when we'll dive into talking about 3 different areas of advertising. I do thank you for joining me here at Marketing Adventure with Jackie. I hope you have a wonderfully blessed day. Thanks for listening to Marketing Adventure. Remember to subscribe, rate, review, and share this episode with someone you think would benefit from the information shared here today. If you have any questions or want to connect with me, find me on Instagram at Marketing Adventure. All links and resources discussed in this episode can be found in the show notes at marketingadventure.com.